Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're rocketing into, well, one of the most exciting high-stakes industries out there, the business of getting things into orbit. If you've ever looked up at the night sky and wondered about, all that's happening above us, this deep dive is definitely for you. We're cracking open a really fascinating report from Cognitive Market Research. Specifically, it's their Global Space Launch Systems market trajectory from 2021 to 2033. And our mission today is really to unpack the raw potential, reveal some truly surprising growth trends, and understand the forces propelling this whole industry. And just to give you that stunning global picture right up front, back in 2021, this market generated roughly, almost $10 billion in revenue globally. That's a huge number to start
That's right.
with.
It really is. And what's fascinating, if you look at the report, is how quickly that number is projected to grow.
hmm
So from that nearly $10 billion in 2021, the market's expected to rocket to almost $13.7 billion by 2025.
Okay, quite a jump already.
Exactly. And then it truly skyrockets. The projection hits an incredible $25.7 billion by 2033.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't just, steady growth. It represents a robust compound annual growth rate, a CGR, of about 8.2% across that whole period. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, it really underscores accelerating investment and demand across key sectors like satellite deployment, space exploration, even national launch capabilities. Essentially, we're talking about the market more than doubling in just over a decade.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more because while that growth is phenomenal globally, it's definitely not uniform, right? Some regions, some countries are clearly leading the charge, others have unique trends. Let's start with North America. As you'd probably expect, it has a significant footprint. Its market grew from around $3.2 billion in 2021 to an estimated $4.5 billion by 2025. And it's set to reach nearly $8.8 billion by 2033. That's maintaining a strong 8.8% LEGR.
Right. And within North America, the United States predictably holds a really substantial share. It contributed about $2.6 billion back in 2021. That's rising to over $3.5 billion in 2025. And the forecast hits nearly $6.9 billion by 2033. So it's growing steadily at about 8.5% annually.
Yeah.
The sustained growth, well, reflects its established space infrastructure, ongoing initiatives, major commercial players, and those ambitious government programs.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, I thought. Canada. Canada actually stands out with the strongest national growth in the entire North American region. It's soaring at an eye-popping 10.453% CAGR. What do you think is driving that kind of exceptional growth, specifically in Canada?
Yeah, that's a great point, and it really points towards strategic targeted investment. Canada's growth isn't just about launching things per se. It reflects significant government and private sector focus on specific niches. Think satellite communications, Earth observation, advanced robotics for space, things like that. They're leveraging their expertise, fostering partnerships that kind of let them punch above their weight, securing a key role in this expanding global space ecosystem. We also see Mexico showing steady growth, too, moving from about $130 million towards over $315 million by 2033.
Right. Okay, let's shift our gaze across the Atlantic to Europe, another considerable market there. Its space launch system market increased from nearly $3 billion in 2021 to almost $4 billion by 2025. And then it's projected to effectively double to over $7.2 billion by 2033, growing at roughly 7.7% annually. Beyond the overall numbers, what are some of the maybe strategic developments or national priorities you're seeing in Europe that are driving this?
Well, Europe's growth is very much about its collaborative multinational approach, through agencies like ESA, but it's combined with individual national strengths, too. For instance, the United Kingdom is scaling its capabilities pretty rapidly, moving from just over $400 million to more than $910 million. That's fueled by a strong push into commercial spaceports and a real focus on small satellite launches. Then you have Germany, climbing from about $530 million to over $1.2 billion. They leverage their deep industrial and engineering base, for advanced propulsion and satellite manufacturing.
Makes sense.
France, of course, traditional space power, is expanding from around $446 million to over $1.1 billion. They have a strong focus on their established launch capabilities and next-gen launchers. Italy, too, is a significant contributor, growing from $346 million to nearly $900 million. And Russia, notably, shows the highest KGR in Europe at over 8.8%, surging from $275 million to over $759 million. That reflects its long-standing state-backed space program.
Interesting about Russia's rate there. Now let's turn to Asia Pacific, a truly dynamic region in this whole space race. This area climbed from nearly $2.5 billion in 2021 to over $3.2 billion by 2025. And it's projected to reach over $5.8 billion by 2033 at about a 7.6% CAGR.
Yeah, and within Asia Pacific, the national outcomes are definitely notable. China, for instance, rose from about $830 million to nearly $2 billion. That really demonstrates its immense state-backed commitment to building comprehensive space capabilities, everything from lunar missions to satellite networks.
Right.
Japan also moved strongly from about $425 million to over $940 million. They're focusing on high-reliability launches and advanced space tech.
And India is really flexing its space muscles here. It stands out as among the fastest growing in the region, rising from about $378 million to an impressive $1.1 billion, with a significant 9.4% CAGR. What's making India such a powerful player in the commercial launch market right now?
India's success, well, it's largely attributed to its reputation for cost-effective and reliable launch services, especially for smaller satellites.
Ah, the cost factor.
Exactly. They've really capitalized on the global demand for affordable access to space. They're attracting international clients alongside their own ambitious national space program. So this focus on efficiency and capacity has really positioned them as a major disruptor in the commercial launch sector. We also see robust growth from South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Taiwan. It indicates a broad regional commitment to space, though the rest of APAC seems to be lagging a bit.
Okay. Next up, let's turn our attention to South America, a region also seeing substantial growth. Their market grew from about $670 million in 2021 to $933 million by 2025, and it's projected to reach over $1.8 billion by 2033. That's an 8.6% CAGR. Who's leading the charge down there, and what's driving their expansion?
Brazil emerges as the region's clear leader here, climbing from about $345 million to over $926 million by 2033. Their growth seems rooted in a renewed focus on domestic space capabilities, things like Earth observation, satellite communications, often tied to resource management and national security.
Practical application.
Very much so. And countries like Argentina and Colombia are also contributing significantly.
Right.
Both are projected to surpass $200 million by 2033, with really strong double-digit CAGRs. This points to an increasing recognition across the continent of space technology's practical uses.
Right. Moving on now to the Middle East, we see an impressive surge there as well. Its revenue increased from about $280 million in 2021 to nearly $400 million in 2025, before growing to almost $800 million by 2033. That's an impressive 9.1% CAGR. What's propelling this region's significant investment in space?
The Middle East's strong growth, well, it seems largely driven by a regional push for economic diversification and, frankly, national prestige. Nations like the UAE and Egypt are showing particularly strong momentum, demonstrating a sort of burgeoning interest in building independent space capabilities, everything from satellite operations to even space exploration ambitions. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar are also making significant investments. It reflects that broader strategic shift towards high-tech industries moving away from just relying on traditional energy sectors.
Okay, and finally, we arrive at Africa. Its space launch system market expanded from about $480 million in 2021 to $672 million by 2025, and it's forecast to reach nearly $1.3 billion by 2033, growing at a robust 8.4% CAGR. What are the primary motivations for African nations getting into this competitive field?
Africa's motivation often seems very practical. It's about leveraging space for development. Think satellite communications for connectivity in underserved areas, Earth observation for agriculture, resource management, climate monitoring.
Real ground-level impact.
Exactly. South Africa and Nigeria are leading the charge, contributing significant growth with their established, though still emerging, space programs. The expansion here really points to a continent increasingly recognizing the critical role of space-based solutions for economic and social progress.
It's truly staggering when you step back and consider the sheer volume and the speed of this global expansion. What stands out most to you about this, well, this truly global phenomenon?
I think what stands out is just the sheer breadth of participation. Across every single region we've discussed today, from North America to Africa, Asia to Europe, even South America and the Middle East, these space launch systems are scaling rapidly. And this isn't just random growth. It's powered by a powerful confluence of factors. You've got robust national space programs, ambitious private commercial ventures, and that ever-expanding global demand for satellite deployment. It seems like every nation is realizing that access to space is becoming almost as crucial as, say, access to the internet was a generation ago.
So what does this all mean for us then? It means the core drivers are clear: advanced satellite constellations, vital national security initiatives, and of course, commercial payload delivery, which is just exploding. The space launch system market is, well, unequivocally ascending to new heights.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here isn't just the numbers, impressive as they are, but that underlying push. As more nations and private companies stake their claim in space, it raises a really important question for all of us, doesn't it? How might this accelerating access to space reshape our daily lives, from communication to resource management, in ways we can probably only begin to imagine right now?
That is a profound thought to ponder, maybe the next time you look up at the night sky. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating and clearly rapidly expanding world of space launch systems. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time. All right, let's launch into this deep dive. We're heading straight for the global space launch system market, the SLS market. We're aiming to unpack, the big forces shaping space exploration's future, the tech, the global teamwork. It's a pretty fascinating and complex picture.
Absolutely. Our mission really is to sift through all the material you've given us, the articles, the research, and pull out the key insights on the SLS market dynamics. Think of it as a way to get quickly up to speed on a topic that's technical, yes, but also genuinely captivating.
Exactly that. You've got this stack of info, your notes, and we're here to guide you through it, figure out what really matters, and we'll try to make even the denser parts feel more like a good chat than a lecture.
So where do we start? I think the first big push for this market has to be government investment, right? The sheer scale of it. When you consider the ambition behind that spending, it really sets the scene. What's the deeper story there? Well, what's really key, I think, is understanding how these huge government commitments basically de-risk the whole deep space endeavor. We're talking major funding from agencies like NASA in the US, obviously the European Space Agency, ESA, pooling resources across Europe, and ISRO in India too. And these aren't just, one-off flashy projects. They're about foundational long-term investment in these heavy lift vehicles like the SLS. It's almost like governments are acting as the ultimate venture capitalists for space, building the core infrastructure.
It's a foundational layer.
Exactly. The infrastructure that private companies can then build upon, all while chasing those big goals.
Yeah.
Tech supremacy, science breakthroughs, national security, it's all intertwined.
That's a really important framing governments as the de-riskers.
Okay.
But it's not just governments looking up anymore, is it? There's this other huge force. The commercial space sector is just booming. How much is that changing things for systems like SLS? Are these private companies building their own heavy lifters, or are they actually looking to SLS for certain things despite the cost? That's a great question. Where is the demand coming from? Beyond the government contracts, you absolutely have private aerospace firms getting serious. They're looking at satellite deployment, space tourism down the line, even sending cargo between planets, potentially. So this surge in private activity definitely fuels demand for heavy lift systems. Now, some are developing their own, sure, but for the really high stakes, the long-range commercial missions, the SLS, with its huge payload capacity and, crucially, its reliability record, well, it becomes a very attractive option. Its sheer scale and performance are kind of essential for the really big commercial plays, maybe huge communication satellites or, future private space stations. It has a niche there.
Right, so it kind of redefines the whole landscape. And driving all this, both government ambition and commercial drive, is the technology itself. It's constantly advancing. It makes you think about just how fast things are moving in aerospace engineering right now. Oh, absolutely. We're seeing progress across the board. Things like making propulsion systems more efficient, developing advanced materials composites, for example, making structures lighter but just as strong. And then you have things like AI-driven digital engineering. That's really pushing the envelope. All these innovations improve crucial things like the weight-to-thrust ratio, they push launch success rates closer and closer to perfect, and they make systems like SLS much more flexible for different kinds of missions, more adaptable for the future. It really is the cutting edge, whether you're talking about launching incredibly sensitive instruments or eventually, sending crews deep into space.
Okay, so you paint a picture of ambition, commerce, tech. Sounds almost unstoppable. But like any massive undertaking, the SLS market faces some pretty serious challenges, some real headwinds. What are the big practical hurdles? Let's start with the money.
Yeah, the cost is, well, it's enormous. That's probably the single biggest restraint.
Mm-hmm.
Developing these systems takes billions in R&D, billions. And then manufacturing each rocket is incredibly expensive too. So realistically, this makes them affordable almost only for governments or maybe huge international partnerships. That multi-billion-dollar price tag per launch, it's not just a number. It really forces a fundamental question about the future of spaceflight. Are we going for these bespoke, ultra-capable sort of Cadillacs like SLS for specific critical missions? Or will the future be dominated by more standardized, reusable Fords that make access cheaper? The market's kind of grappling with that.
And when the costs are that high, any mistake, any failure, the consequences are massive, right? The complexity involved, it's hard to even wrap your head around.
It's staggering. I mean, the SLS integrates incredibly complex propulsion, next-gen electronics, structures tuned to perfection. Now, the complexity is what gives it its unique capabilities, lets it do things nothing else can, but it also inherently increases the risk of errors, delays, worst-case mission failures. And when that happens, it can shake confidence, stall timelines, even affect national strategy. The level of precision needed is just extraordinary.
Which leads us neatly to another major challenge. Competition is heating up. How are these disruptive forces, especially reusable rockets, affecting SLS's game plan long term?
Right. This is where it gets really, really interesting strategically for SLS. You've got players like SpaceX, Blue Origin. They're turning the launch world upside down with reusability. And the key thing there is that reusability slashes launch costs, makes getting to space cheaper, more frequent. SLS, on the other hand, is currently designed as an expendable system. Its main parts are used once and then gone. That drives the cost per launch way up compared to reusable options.
A very different model.
Totally different. And this raises some tough questions about SLS's cost effectiveness, especially as the space economy gets more price sensitive and, frankly, more focused on sustainability. People are starting to ask where SLS fits in that evolving picture.
So it's this constant tension, incredible capability versus cost efficiency, and these new competitive pressures. Okay, but let's pivot. Despite the challenges, the promise here is still immense. Let's chart that future path. How are things like new collaborations changing the game for where humanity goes next in space?
Yeah, looking ahead, you definitely see a trend towards more collaboration, especially internationally. NASA's Artemis program is the perfect example. The goal is returning humans to the moon, but crucially, doing it with international partners. Multiple space agencies are involved. These global partnerships are vital. They don't just spread the huge costs around, they also foster this really important exchange of technology, of know-how. It strengthens the whole endeavor and actually boosts the long-term relevance of something like SLS. It becomes more of a global tool for exploration.
That makes a lot of sense for these huge shared goals. And speaking of goals, there's this renewed, intensified focus on the moon and Mars. What are those really big, ambitious, long-term objectives driving the need for heavy lifters like SLS?
Well, the demand for deep space transport is definitely ramping up. Nations aren't just thinking about short visits anymore. They're seriously planning for a sustained, maybe even permanent, human presence beyond Earth. We're talking long-term habitats using resources found off Earth. It's a shift in thinking, and SLS is really being engineered to be the workhorse for that, the backbone, if you will, delivering the massive payloads, the advanced robotic systems, and eventually the crews needed for that kind of long-duration exploration and settlement on the Moon and later Mars. It's built for the really big, long-haul missions.
And enabling all of this behind the scenes are technologies like digital twins and advanced simulations. It's kind of amazing how innovation is speeding things up and cutting risks for these incredibly complex projects.
It really is a game changer. Aerospace developers are using digital twin technology more and more, essentially creating a super accurate, dynamic virtual replica of the SLS. They can model everything, optimize performance, test scenarios, all in the virtual world before bending any metal. The advantages are huge. It cuts costs by catching problems early, boosts safety through exhaustive virtual testing, and significantly speeds up the whole development and launch timeline. It just leads to smarter, more agile ways of building these incredibly complex machines.
So wrapping things up, it seems the space launch system market is definitely on this powerful upward path. You've got government ambition, commercial energy, incredible tech advances, all pushing it forward. But at the same time, those very real economic hurdles and technical complexities, plus the competition, are constantly shaping the strategy. It's a really dynamic balance.
It is indeed. And maybe, connecting this to the really big picture, the question you might leave with is this. How will this evolving mix of space economics, international cooperation, and competing technologies ultimately shape humanity's future reach? Will it be led by these bespoke giants like SLS, or a more democratized, cheaper approach? Or maybe some hybrid model we haven't fully seen yet? That's the big question going forward.